So now that you have your plans in the city, going through the process of reviews, clearances, and approvals, and it is going to take time, as I mentioned in the previous video, I usually recommend to take that time to start getting estimates and bid from contractors. Yes, it probably will not be accurate and it will not be final because your plans are going to go through most likely some changes based on city requirements, some clearances, and so forth. But it's okay. It's going to give you a basic understanding of guideline of where you are, where you're at. Once your plans are going to be approved, you can always take those to the contractors that you've interviewed and say, okay, now I have those plans approved. Here's a final look. Give me your best and final price. And then he needs to make his adjustments based on whatever the city have done. Now, before you even go to the process of qualifying contractors, which will be on the next chapter, on this one, I want to focus on creating a scope of work that you can then solicit to contractors. What do I mean by that? If you're going to let your contractors to provide you estimates the way that they're doing it, you're probably going to get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 different estimates written different ways. Different contractors going to work in different ways. You'll never know if it's including everything or what is excluding. If there is any things that you're missing over there, and it will not be apples to apples. So what I recommend is to create your own scope of work. Take it together with the plans, the designs, the renderings if you've done renderings, and then get your estimates so you can compare it. So what I'll do is I'll go over with you and I'll share with you. You have in the files that you received from us, you have 2 forms you need to open right now. The first one is going to be the construction scope of work. It's called construction scope of work sample, and also a spreadsheet. It's the construction budgeting Excel spreadsheet. Open those 2 because what I'll do is I'll again share my screen with you and I'll go over those so I can explain exactly what you need to look for and how exactly you need to do it. And after that, you know exactly how to approach it and how to start the process of creating a scope. And then next one, we'll talk about getting contractors on board. Okay, so let's start with the construction scope of work itself. Let me do a quick review, brief about it. Okay, you have first the address that you need to put in, and then we have a few sections. We have the general description, we'll go over it in a second. Then we have the rough construction phase. We have the finished construction phase. We'll talk about those in details in a second. Then we have the finished material budget. And also we have here the schedule of values. We have the total cost, what is excluded, very important. You want the contractor to include what's excluded. What is the owner responsibility? You want to know those. And of course the payment schedule. Okay, now let's start going over it one by one. So the first thing is of course your address. Okay, property address. Now what I would recommend is that you will give this to the contractor and ask him to use it as something that he's bidding on, but he will also complete with whatever he needs, meaning this is going to be the base and he can add whatever he wants to add on top of it, but do not take anything from it. So first thing is to be that what is the general description of the project. In this case I wrote something in the nature of construction for a new ground up ADU, 800 square feet, 1 story, 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom, laundry closet, so forth. This is basically a description based on what you can see on your plans. Okay, it's going to say based on set of construction plans, dated, what are the date on your plans, and if there are 3D renderings. Rough construction phase. Now with rough construction phase, you should know that generally speaking, construction projects are divided into 2 main phases. Phase 1, your rough construction, which is going to include your site staging, as you can closing the areas and install fences, dumpster and portable restrooms if needed, demolition, if there's any demolition needed, foundation, which is the excavation for creating forms, installing rebars, pouring the concrete, framing of walls, floors, roofing, and so forth. Roofing, installing the new roof, plumbing, installing new or upgrade water and gas sewer lines. That's all the plumbing that you're going to have. Electrical, of course, installing the new or upgrade if it's existing structure, by the way. That's why it says here upgrade. For outlets, lights, and so forth. HVAC, for this one, I've used install mini split AC unit. By the way, everything that you see here, you can change and modify to whatever works for you and what you need. This is a sample that you can take and modify as much as you need it. So over here again, I used mini split, but if you're deciding on a different unit, just specify what you're requiring. Insulation needs to go into the walls and ceilings. Drywall, stucco, and siding depends what you're choosing to install on the inside and outside of the structure. Those are all the rough construction pieces. Okay, by the way, throughout this you will see that there's go through city inspection in different stages, because every single item, okay, from foundation to framing, roofing, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, installation, and drywall and stucco or siding will go through city inspection. Okay, every single phase. Your contractor cannot move to the next phase before completing one of those phases. Next, we have here the finished construction. Finished construction is basically once you have a shell completed, exterior and interior with drywall up, now it's time to finish it. You need to finish it by installing doors, windows, flooring and tile, trims, which are the baseboards and door casing. If you have more trims outside of the windows, or if you have crown molding and so forth, you want to add those over here. Painting, of course, cabinetries, all your kitchen cabinetries, vanities, closets, and so forth. Fixtures and appliances, all of your plumbing fixtures, electrical fixtures like pendant lights and so forth. It's going to be on the bathroom. It's going to be sinks, faucets, tubs, of course in the kitchen as well. And then if you have all your appliances, washer, dryer, and so forth. Touch up and clean up. You want to have, that part of your scope. Because at the end of it, once everything is done, someone needs to do touch-ups and clean-ups on the unit. And of course, go through the final inspection with the city to get your certificate of occupancy. Create a punch list. This is something that you want to have over there. A punch list is basically a list of tasks that you will create at the end once the project is completed, that you see and you and your contractor are getting into an understanding that he needs to be completed before final payment is done. Next, we have here the finished material budget. Now, what I usually recommend is to separate this from your contract with a contractor, but you want to have him to give you a budget to know what we're talking about. So he's going to separate it from the rest of the contract, and at the end of it, you're going to from the total of the scope. But at the end of it, you're going to decide whether you want him to have it in the contract or outside the contract. Again, I always recommend to have it outside the contract, but still, you want to get his quantities, how much he's going to charge for the different items for kitchen, bathrooms, flooring, electrical, doors, trims, windows, appliances, equipment, and so forth. Over here, have details of those items based on your specific project, okay? This one is, again, based on 800 square foot ADU. So we have here cabinets, quartz countertop, faucet, sink, garbage disposal. Bathroom, we have tiles, vanity, faucet, toilets, and so forth. As you can see, again, make modifications as you need over here. Next phase, have him break down the schedule of values, meaning how much each stage is worth in money. And I'll talk about those later, why it's important. Okay, so he's going to break down how much each phase is worth in money, and then how much is the total cost. What's excluded? Very important. You want to know what he's excluding. It's important to know what's included, of course, which is all those, but very important, what is excluded. Okay? Usually, any contractor is going to exclude engineer observation and fees. I put over here hardscape and or landscape work. By the way, you can remove it if you want to have it part of the scope. Just have it as part of the scope. and any other thing that he's going to exclude. What are your responsibilities? Usually it's going to be paying your city fees, choosing and approving all the finished materials, and then what is the payment schedule, which we will talk later on when you draft a contract. But usually it's going to be a small deposit once you sign the contract, and then a small deposit once he starts the work. I put 10%, you can do something different. And then progress payment based on whatever you agree with him. But again, this is just a scope of work, but you can put here what you're suggesting to have, and then if he has any modifications, you'll talk about that. Okay, that's for this one. Next one, we'll go over the this over here. 1 second. So open your trades breakdown. Okay, so one of the spreadsheets you received is called construction budgeting. On this one, we're going to have 3 different tabs. The first one is going to be trades breakdown. The second one is finished material breakdown. We'll talk about in a different video, and then the equipment also in a different video. On this video, we're going to focus on the trades breakdown. This is basically a breakdown of all the different trades that are going to be associated with development and building your ADU. You're going to have here site staging, waste removal, which is dumpster to remove all the waste from your property, demolition, excavation, foundation, framing, roofing, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, AC units, insulation, doors and windows, waterproofing, drywall, stucco, siding, paint, floor, stone, glass, if you have glass, any type of glass, this is usually a specialty item, carpentry and cabinets, trims, which are all the trims that are going to go around your doors and windows, casing and so forth, hardscape, landscape, cleanup, general labor, and other. Now, why do you want to have that? This is going to help you budgeting your construction in more details. It's going to help you to understand what are the different costs associated with your construction project. And what I would also recommend is when you're sending your scope of work that you're going to, of course, complete and bring to your needs, also ask your contractor to complete this form as well. Okay. On everything that he's going to charge. It's going to give you a breakdown of labor and materials. I'm going to make a side note over here. A lot of contractors are not going to be happy to separate the labor from the materials, and that's it's your decision whether you want to work with a contractor that is not willing to do so. But if you're planning to do an owner builder and you're going to hire the different trades, you want to know if they're providing the materials or you are. Either way, it's your decision how you want to approach it, but you want to know what's going to be the cost of labor and materials, or altogether, if you're getting a general contractor or trades that are going to provide everything. By the way, you don't need to work with it too much. Then once you have the information, you just put it in like that. Labor, let's say $1,000 here, $250 over here, another $500 over here, another $1,000 over here, and it's going to do the math for you over here automatically. On all those columns, it's going to give you the subtotal tax rate. Just change the tax rate based on what you have, and it's going to give you the total. Again, very important to put in the right information. If your contractor is not willing to cooperate, and even if it's a general contractor, and break down the different phases, something is wrong. You want to know how much every phase is going to cost. It's okay. I know a lot of contractors not willing to separate the labor from the materials. That's very common, by the way, with general contractors. But at least to break down the different phases, because this is going to be later on your guideline of how you're going to make your payments, progress payments, based on the different stages that you're going to go through. So again, very important to have this kind of a breakdown from all the contractors you're getting estimates from, and of course for yourself to know what it's going to cost. Okay, that's it for this subject about creating the scope of work, creating your construction budget. Important about this specific document, make sure it's meeting your needs. You can make any adjustments to it as you need. This is this is to provide you a guideline to know exactly what you need to have. If you need to remove anything, change anything, add anything, do it as you go. And also, when you send it to the contractors, make sure that they're, if anything, they're not going to remove from it, but they're going to add on top of it. Not hopefully, I know that this will give you an apples to apples compare between different bids that you're going to get, and it's going to make your life easier when selecting a contractor before going into an actual agreement. That's it. Next one, we'll talk about qualifying contractors.